check out what I got today. It's the Razer Wolverine V2 Chroma Edition. This controller is designed for the Xbox Series X and S, and it'll work on the PC as well. Looking around the box, so here are some of the features. So additional buttons, interchangeable thumbsticks, cool. And the face buttons have something that Razer calls Mecha Tactile Action buttons and D-pad as well. Huh, interesting, okay. Can't wait to try that out. And of course, you've got the RGB. This is the special feature of this controller. Alright, let's crack this bad boy open. Oh yeah, look at this. Wow. Alright, here's the controller. The D-pad is more of a floating D-pad. Wow. My goodness, I cannot wait to try this out. Check that out. Alright, the face buttons feels pretty good. It's got a lot of travel too. I like that. Normally, controller that has buttons with mice switches, they don't have a lot of travel, but this guy does. Yeah, I think this is gonna be good. Alright, thumbsticks. They feel alright. A little bit on the taller side though. Okay, and pretty loose actually, but grippy. I think they're gonna work pretty well. Here we go, shoulder buttons. You can press it in on both sides. Triggers, the Xbox style. And we got 2 extra buttons here. They sound exactly like my switches. And on the back here, you got 4 more buttons. I really am not a fan of these. They are usable. I've tried controllers with this kind of setup in the past, but not the biggest fan because they kind of stick out too much, you know what I mean? Look at that, and they're toward the middle. It's kind of hard to reach. We've got trigger locks. Sweet. We've got a really nice grippy handle here. It's not rubbery, it's plastic feeling. Actually, in fact, this whole controller feels very plasticky. It's pretty solidly built. It's just plasticky, that's all. Usually with premium controllers, you get a rubbery grip. And also you would get metal buttons on the paddles or buttons on the back. But these guys are plastic. So the materials used is not the most premium, but how it plays and how it feels, that's what mattered the most, right? And so far, I think this guy feels pretty solid. Alright, let's see what else is in the box. Interesting. Well, this guy is super short. Check that out. And this guy's a little bit longer. Concave, convex. Alright, let's plug this guy in. Okay, interesting. Alright, so this is a concave setup, kind of like the PlayStation controller. And if you want something that's super tall, you can use this guy. You see how there's an added length right there? Let's see, what else? What else? Oh, look at this cable. Very nice. USB-A to USB-C. Got a Razer logo there. What do you say we plug this bad boy in and take it for a test drive? Oh, look at that. You know what? This D-pad here is really good for Soul Calibur, I would imagine. Just because it's a floating D-pad. So 8-way runs should be pretty easy to do. Yeah, pretty responsive. Okay, let's test the double taps. Yeah. So this is a little strange for me to say. As you can hear clearly that these buttons are clicky, right? However, they feel kind of mushy, if that makes any sense. Right? You can hear it, but you don't feel it, which is so weird. Yeah, it's such a strange feeling. It's a clicky, mushy button. Yeah, diagonals works really well. Although the buttons feel a little mushy, it's nowhere near bad. In fact, I would say this is pretty good. It's very responsive. I'm able to pull off all the moves.
Watch over me, Mother. You can't stop me. Do you give up?
So circular motions is especially good on this D-pad just because it's a floating D-pad, right? So it's like a disc that's sitting on top of this D-pad mechanism here. And this little cross here is barely raised at the edges. So circular motions is excellent on this controller because you don't have to deal with the individual buttons and the edges on the buttons. So for example, I have the 8BitDo Pro 2 controller here. And to do circular motions, your thumb, when you glide it over the edges of the buttons here, it gets pretty rough and it slows you down. Whereas with this guy, there's practically no edges at all. So I imagine that this controller is also pretty good for Street Fighter as well. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. Just like I thought, this controller has excellent circular motions. So it's really good for Street Fighter or a game that uses a lot of circular motions. To customize your controller, you can use the Razer controller setup for Xbox app, and you can create new profiles or use the existing one. Here you can remap the extra buttons. On this page you can set the sensitivity of the thumbsticks. So if you play a lot of first-person shooters, maybe this is something you want to do. And check this out, you can set the dead zone on this controller too. Not a lot of controllers allow you to do this. You can set the strength of the rumble. This guy has a really strong rumble, so I'm gonna just set it to 2. And here we are. We can set the lighting effects. It's a pretty simple and to the point app. I kind of like it. No nonsense. Alright, initial impressions of this guy. This guy is definitely good for fighting games. I particularly love the floating D-pad here. It's really good. This floating D-pad acts more like an arcade stick than anything. The directions get activated as you rotate this thing around, right? It's not really a button press, it's more of a rotation. Typically with disc-based D-pads, diagonals can be pretty spotty just because the disc is floating out there. But this D-pad has pretty accurate diagonals. I'm gonna say I'm pretty impressed. It's a little bit heavier than your normal button-based D-pads, but this is very good. It's responsive, it's accurate, and it plays really well. The face buttons I have some mixed feelings on. It sounds clicky, but it feels mushy. What world are we living in? It's so weird. And whatever button switches they use in this controller is a little bit on the heavier side. But I do like the fact that there's a lot of travel though. It feels good, because I tend to mash my buttons, so I need a little bit of give. And these definitely have a little bit of give. Overall, they're good, but they're not the best. I really like the fact that there are trigger locks and the extra buttons too if you want to program it. I want to talk about the extra buttons for a little bit. I think the placement is perfect for them. They rest away from the triggers and the bumpers so you don't accidentally hit them. But they are also close enough in between the triggers and the bumpers where you can hit them easily. So all you gotta do is use the tip of your index fingers to hit them. And they're tall enough where you can hit them pretty easily. Yeah, I like this a lot. Now on to the back buttons. These really should be paddles instead of buttons. But since they are buttons, I understand why they are placed so close toward the middle. And here's the reason why. They are designed away from the grip of the controller so they don't interfere with your fingers. So if these buttons are closer to the handles, you're going to be hitting them constantly. So I get it. But really, this is not a good design, honestly. They should really be paddles. Or if they are going to be buttons, build them into the handles. Right? Maybe up here or something. Yeah, but the way it is, it's kind of hard to hold. You see that? You gotta use your middle and ring fingers, and you gotta kind of reach really far to hit them. So if you have smaller hands or short fingers, you're gonna have trouble hitting these. These are designed to be secondary buttons where you don't use them very often. But if you do want to use the extra buttons often, just use these instead. These are a lot easier to reach, So yeah, I'm a fan of these guys up here, but not so much down here. The shoulder buttons work just like you expect. They're nice and tactile and clicky. Now I do want to mention something about the triggers. Check this out. You see how it's kind of curved up quite a bit. You see that? Because of this curve, your finger rests securely on the controller. It doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't slip or anything. So a very nice touch, I like that a lot. And if you compare this to your regular Xbox controller, right? There's no such upward curve at the back end right here. So overall, I'm pretty impressed with this guy. It's got a lot of good going for it. Oh, it's Lindsay again. Hopefully I can win this time. Let's see. Alright, Lindsay. Let's go. And that's gonna be it for me. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more, and take care now.